Some scars don't show on the skin. They live deeper, in the places only time and memory can reach. Leo thought he'd escape that cycle. Thought if he worked hard, stayed clean, and didn't make enemies, everything would fall into place. But life is rarely that simple. Unlike many things, Leo's phone buzzed him. A message from an unknown number. No words, just a photo. In it, Leo from years ago, worn hoodie, hanging with people he once called family, and in the corner, Tyler, staring straight into the lens, that smirk, as if he knew exactly how the photo would be used. Leo exhaled, heart pounding. Then another message popped up. The past doesn't stay buried, especially when someone wants to dig it up. Then another message popped up. The next day, Leo was called into the manager's office. The tone was cold, the eyes uncertain. Someone sent our security team some background info on you. We're not making any accusations, but we need to hear your side. Leo was silent for a moment, then looked up, steady. I've made mistakes. I'm not proud of them, but I chose to change. And ever since I walked into this company, I haven't looked back. No reply. None needed. Leo knew things wouldn't be the same from now on. Oh, that night, his phone rang again. Another unknown number, but the voice all too familiar. Hey, little brother. Ryan. The guy Leo once trusted more than anyone. The same guy who vanished after a theft Leo had nothing to do with, but still got blamed for. Heard you're living clean now. Office job and all? Nice. But not everyone forgets who you were. Leo clenched the phone. Ryan continued. Tyler says you've got two options. Walk away from that job, or we blow everything up in ways you won't see coming. Silence. Think it over, Leo. Those people in suits, they'll never really accept someone like you. Also, that night, Leo stood in front of the mirror. He saw himself again. Not the version in a dress shirt, but the kid from back then. The one who made a mess and chose to clean it up. Do our pasts define us? Or do our choices after decide who we really are? He could stay silent and survive, or speak up and risk it all. Leo sat at his desk, opened his laptop, wrote an email, not to HR, not to his boss, to the entire team. Subject, you deserve the truth. There, I wasn't always the person you see today. I've messed up. I followed the wrong people. But one day, I made a choice to change. Everything I've done since joining this company, every late night, every report, every ounce of effort, has come from a place of honesty. If that's not enough, I understand. But if you believe people can change, then I'd like to stay. Leo. Narrator. Closing thoughts. Truth is never easy, but sometimes having the courage to be honest is what people remember most. The past may come knocking, but only you decide whether to open the door. Text on screen, Episode 5 teaser. Next episode, When One Stands Alone. The truth is out. Now it's time to see who stands with him. Unquote. Some scars don't show on the skin. They live deeper, in the places only time and memory can reach. Leo thought he'd escape that cycle. Thought if he worked hard, stayed clean, and didn't make enemies, everything would fall into place. But life is rarely that simple. Unlike many things, Leo's phone buzzed him. A message from an unknown number. No words, just a photo. In it, Leo from years ago, worn hoodie, hanging with people he once called family, and in the corner, Tyler, staring straight into the lens, that smirk, as if he knew exactly how the photo would be used. Leo exhaled, heart pounding. Then another message popped up. The past doesn't stay buried, especially when someone wants to dig it up. Then another message popped up. The next day, Leo was called into the manager's office. The tone was cold, the eyes uncertain. Someone sent our security team some background info on you. We're not making any accusations, but we need to hear your side. Leo was silent for a moment, then looked up, steady. I've made mistakes. I'm not proud of them, but I chose to change, and ever since I walked into this company, I haven't looked back. No reply. None needed. Leo knew things wouldn't be the same from now on. Oh, that night, his phone rang again. Another unknown number, but the voice all too familiar. Hey, little brother. Ryan. The guy Leo once trusted more than anyone. The same guy who vanished after a theft Leo had nothing to do with, but still got blamed for. Heard you're living clean now. Office job and all? Nice. But not everyone forgets who you were. Leo clenched the phone. Ryan continued. Tyler says you've got two options. Walk away from that job, or we blow everything up in ways you won't see coming. Silence. Think it over, Leo. Those people in suits, they'll never really accept someone like you. Also, that night, Leo stood in front of the mirror. He saw himself again. Not the version in a dress shirt, but the kid from back then. The one who made a mess and chose to clean it up. Do our pasts define us, or do our choices after decide who we really are? He could stay silent and survive, or speak up and risk it all. Leo sat at his desk, opened his laptop, wrote an email, not to HR, not to his boss, to the entire team. Subject: you deserve the truth. There, I wasn't always the person you see today. I've messed up. I followed the wrong people. But one day, I made a choice to change. Everything I've done since joining this company, every late night, every report, every ounce of effort, has come from a place of honesty. If that's not enough, I understand. But if you believe people can change, then I'd like to stay. Leo. Narrator. Closing thoughts. Truth is never easy, but sometimes having the courage to be honest is what people remember most. The past may come knocking, but only you decide whether to open the door. Text on screen, Episode 5 teaser. Next episode, When One Stands Alone. The truth is out. Now it's time to see who stands with him. Unquote. Some days, life just seems to test your character. That day, rain poured down like the sky was falling onto the narrow alleyways of Saigon. Leo, a college student from the countryside, was rushing to complete his final delivery of the shift. His clothes were soaked, his stomach empty, and his scooter kept stalling from the rain. He pulled into a small cafe to take cover, and there, a classy brown leather wallet sat alone on a table, as if it had been waiting for him. He glanced around. No one seemed to notice. He picked up the wallet, opened it, stuffed with cash, bank cards, and ID. A 500,000 VND bill slipped to the ground. He bent down to pick it up, his hand trembling. Sounds of poverty weakens even the strongest hearts. Leo thought about rent, tuition, and the last packet of instant noodles in his room. Just one bill, just this once. And just then, Tyler appeared. They lived in the same boarding house, studied at the same university, but belonged to two completely different worlds. Tyler was slick, talkative, and always looked down on Leo as a naive farm boy. Tyler squinted at the wallet and whispered, "That's a high-end wallet. Take a few bills. Who's gonna know? Rich people have tons of money. You're broke, not stupid. This is your chance." Leo stayed silent. The rain kept falling, but inside, a storm raged. "Keep it or return it, right or wrong." "Oh, wonderful." Then carefully place the amount of money in the wallet and hand it to a cafe staff member. He simply said, "Someone left this behind. Could you please return it for me?" Tyler stood nearby, smirking, and carefully placed the amount of money in the wallet and handed it to a cafe staff member. He simply said, "Someone left this behind. Could you please return it for me?" 3 days later, phone call. A call came from an unknown number. A calm, polite male voice. "Is this Leo? I'm the person who left that wallet. I reviewed the security footage and saw that you returned it." It turned out to be Mr. Bennett, the owner of a major interior design company. He invited Leo for coffee, thanked him sincerely, and said softly, "I'm looking for a part-time assistant. If you're interested, I can make it happen." Leo was stunned. A real opportunity born from what felt like a small act. Narrator, final unexpected meeting. The next day, Leo was invited to the company's executive office. Mr. Bennett sat across from him, studying him for a long moment. "Let me ask you honestly, when you found the wallet, did you ever consider keeping it?" Leo lowered his head and replied honestly, "I did. At that moment, I was desperate. But in the end, I just couldn't go through with it." Mr. Bennett nodded slowly. Then he pulled out a small envelope and placed it on the table. "This is your official offer letter. But I want to give you something more. A message I truly believe in." He looked straight into Leo's eyes and said each word clearly. "Honesty isn't about never being tempted. It's about choosing what's right, even when wrong is easier. Sometimes things can be difficult, but always on the bus ride. I will always remember this. Thank you. I will always forgive you, but please trust me and don't risk writing this text. A friend or a knife in the back." And then softly, a Vietnamese proverb fades in. "Those who live kindly will meet good. Those who do evil will face harm." Ours time is never easy, especially when you feel like you don't belong. Leo walked into the company's office for the first day on the job. His shirt was ironed but worn. His steps were unsure, eyes scanning a world he wasn't used to. Marble floors. Quiet keyboards, confident smiles. As he stood awkwardly near the front desk, a man walked over. "Hey, I'm Nate. I'll help show you the ropes." Nate smiled easily, asked about Leo's background, joked a little, made him feel welcome. And for a moment, Leo relaxed. Maybe this won't be so bad, he thought. Narrator, darkness behind the smile. But as the days passed, little things started going wrong. Leo got blamed for mistakes he didn't make. One of his reports mysteriously vanished from the shared folder, just hours before a meeting. He started staying late just to double-check everything. Then one afternoon, as Nate left his computer unlocked, Leo glanced at the screen and froze. A message thread with Tyler. The same Tyler who once told him to pocket that wallet. The message read, "Still playing dumb. I'll keep pushing. Make sure he snaps or gets kicked." That narrator didn't confront him. He didn't say a word. That night, he went back to the cafe where it all started. Same table, same rain outside the window, but this time, his heart was heavier. A familiar voice spoke from behind. Long day. It was Mr. Bennett. He sat down beside Leo, calm as ever. Do you believe you're here because you were lucky, or because you made the right choice? Leo looked down at his hands, then back up with quiet resolve. I think I'm here because I did what was right, even when no one was watching. Narrator, closing thoughts. Some people smile to hide their knives. But in the end, masks always fall. Trouble may come, but integrity stays. And those who stay true will always find their way. Episode 3 teaser, text on screen. Next episode, the cost of being good. When kindness is misunderstood, is it still worth it? So, Episode 3, the cost of being good. When kindness is misunderstood, is it still worth it? Episode 3, some people fight battles no one sees. And sometimes, the biggest battles aren't against others, but within. Leo sat alone in the break room. The coffee was bitter. The silence? Worse. Whispers floated past the door. He's trying too hard. Then came the client pitch. Nate says he's unreliable. He stared at the cup in his hand, replaying it all. The late nights, the double checks, the effort, the silence. He chose not to fight back. Not yet. Not because he was weak, but because he still believed that being good meant something. Then came the client pitch. A high-stakes presentation. One shot to prove himself. Leo had worked through the weekend, building the deck, refining every slide. The morning of the meeting, he walked in early, confident for once. Until his name wasn't on the project file. His work now under Nate's. He looked up. Nate stood at the front of the room, presenting. Flawless delivery. Leo's words. Nate's face. Leo sat frozen in the back. Invisible. He could have exposed it. Right there. Had the receipts. But then what? Burn it all down? Or rise above it? Later that day, HR called him in. Not about the pitch, but because someone raised concerns about his performance. He almost laughed. Almost. As he left the office, the receptionist stopped him. Hey, I saw what you did. That presentation? We both know whose it was. She smiled, just enough. Don't lose that light. Some of us are watching. Finally, being good doesn't always mean being liked, or even being seen. But in a world full of masks, staying true is its own rebellion. And kindness, misunderstood or not, still echoes. Because the cost of being good is never as high as the price of losing yourself. Speaking, Episode 4, Season 4. Next episode, he tried to leave it behind, but the past always finds a way back. Some scars don't show on the skin. They live deeper, in the places only time and memory can reach. Leo thought he'd escape that cycle. Thought if he worked hard, stayed clean, and didn't make enemies, everything would fall into place. But life is rarely that simple. Unlike many things, Leo's phone buzzed him. A message from an unknown number. No words, just a photo. In it, Leo from years ago. Worn hoodie. Hanging with people he once called family. And in the corner, Tyler, staring straight into the lens. That smirk. As if he knew exactly how the photo would be used. Leo exhaled, heart pounding. Then another message popped up. The past doesn't stay buried, especially when someone wants to dig it up. Then another message popped up. The next day, Leo was called into the manager's office. The tone was cold, the eyes uncertain. Someone sent our security team some background info on you. We're not making any accusations, but we need to hear your side. Leo was silent for a moment. Then looked up, steady. I've made mistakes. I'm not proud of them, but I chose to change, and ever since I walked into this company, I haven't looked back. No reply. None needed. Leo knew things wouldn't be the same from now on. Oh, that night, his phone rang again. Another unknown number, but the voice all too familiar. Hey, little brother. Ryan. The guy Leo once trusted more than anyone. The same guy who vanished after a theft Leo had nothing to do with, but still got blamed for. Heard you're living clean now. Office job and all? Nice. But not everyone forgets who you were. Leo clenched the phone. Ryan continued. Tyler says you've got two options. Walk away from that job, or we blow everything up in ways you won't see coming. Silence. Think it over, Leo. Those people in suits, they'll never really accept someone like you. Also, that night, Leo stood in front of the mirror. He saw himself again. Not the version in a dress shirt, but the kid from back then. The one who made a mess and chose to clean it up. Do our pasts define us, or do our choices after decide who we really are? He could stay silent and survive, or speak up and risk it all. Leo sat at his desk, opened his laptop, wrote an email, not to HR, not to his boss, to the entire team. Subject: You deserve the truth. There, I wasn't always the person you see today. I've messed up. I followed the wrong people. But one day, I made a choice to change. Everything I've done since joining this company, every late night, every report, every ounce of effort, has come from a place of honesty. If that's not enough, I understand. But if you believe people can change, then I'd like to stay. Leo. Narrator. Closing thoughts. Truth is never easy, but sometimes having the courage to be honest is what people remember most. The past may come knocking, but only you decide whether to open the door. Text on screen, Episode 5 teaser. Next episode, When One Stands Alone. The truth is out. Now it's time to see who stands with him. Unquote. It's Episode 5, When One Stands Alone. Now it's time to see who stands with him. Narrator opening. Truth doesn't always set you free. Sometimes it leaves you standing alone. Sometimes it sets fire to the silence and waits to see who stays. Leo sent the email at 2:13 a.m. No edits, no drafts, no overthinking. Just a deep need to say it now or never. And the next morning, everything changed. Leo's morning silence speaks. He walked into the office. No nods, no hey, but every face had read his words. The silence wasn't ignorance. It was calculation. Is he genuine? Is this a stunt? Can we trust someone with a past like that? Someone who used to shake his hand just passed him by. His manager? Eyes down, lips tight. Leo sat down at his desk like every other day. But nothing about this day was every other. The first crack, Ava. Midday, pantry. Leo was fixing coffee when Ava, designer's smart, observant, walked in. She didn't speak at first, but then took guts to do that. Leo blinked. Ava met his eyes. Not everyone has the courage to own their past. That alone makes me respect you. It wasn't much, but it was everything. Later that afternoon, back at his desk, a post-it note appeared. Keep going. You don't know me, but I see you. A mystery coffee sat next to his monitor. Leo smiled. Small signs, real signs. In the elevator, a developer who rarely spoke gave him a quiet nod. No words, but it meant, I'm with you. To the enemy moves, Nate returns. But not everyone liked what Leo stood for. Nate approached his desk with that familiar, polished smirk. Nice confession, Leo. Company newsletter next? Leo stood, calm. I didn't send it for attention. I sent it so I could stop hiding. Nate leaned in. Truth is a luxury. People only value it when it serves them. Leo didn't blink. Then maybe you've never met the right people. Nate walked away, smirk fading. A phone call, Mr. Bennett. Evening. Leo's phone lit up. Unknown number. This is Bennett. Got a minute? They met in a small, quiet meeting room. I read your message, Bennett said, voice low. More importantly, so did others. He placed a folded piece of paper in front of Leo. 5 names. All people who left this company quietly, pushed out, silenced. Now they want to speak. Because of you. Leo's chest tightened. His words were turning into waves. Leo reflects the same cafe, a new man. That night, Leo returned to the cafe where it all started. Rain outside. Same window, same song. He remembered Tyler, the past, the choice to walk away and never look back. But now it wasn't just about not falling, it was about lifting others. A new battle, quiet but real. The next day, Leo sat in a closed-door meeting. Senior leaders were reviewing roles, re-examining decisions. No one said his name. Well, but the change had already begun. Closing thoughts, 3-1. Leo looked around, into the house about. It was about meaning. He wasn't just the guy with a past. He was now a reminder of what courage looked like. Sometimes one person stands, not for glory, but because silence costs more than risk. About it. Next episode, Louder Than Silence. When one voice dares to speak, it doesn't just get heard, it echoes. A voice that almost disappeared is now being heard. Silence isn't always agreement. Sometimes it's just waiting. And once a single voice rises, others start searching for the strength to follow. Leo never expected one email to change so much. But now, he walks into an office that no longer feels quiet in the same way. Only this time, silence is no longer the comfortable option. Things happened 3 days after the email. The first to reach out was Victor, a quiet, long-time QA engineer. They had for coffee. Victor looked tired, heavy, like he'd been carrying stories for too long. I've seen this before, he said, and I stayed silent, and I still regret it. He talked about a female colleague who was pushed out of a project for not playing by the unspoken rules. A developer blamed for errors he didn't make. A pattern. A system. And Victor, he had watched, done nothing. I don't know if I could do what you did, but because you did, something's waking up in me. Leo didn't need to say anything, because in Victor's eyes, there was fire now. In the same week, Leo got 2 more messages from a former analyst who had talked too much in meetings and was quietly removed from her team. Another from someone who had quit, citing burnout, but really, he'd been iced out. They didn't ask for help. They didn't want revenge. They just said, "Thanks for saying what we couldn't. I wish I'd had your courage. If you ever need someone to back you up, I'm here." The silence had broken, and what was growing now wasn't chaos. It was trust. But not everyone welcomed this shift. Nate, now visibly uncomfortable, started spinning a new narrative. He whispered that Leo was stirring up trouble, dividing the team. A few managers started watching Leo closely. Some meetings happened, and Leo wasn't invited. One afternoon in the pantry, Leo walked in and the room fell quiet. Eyes flicked away. Faces tightened. He felt the chill. But this time, he didn't flinch. He poured his coffee, turned around, and said, "I haven't done anything wrong. If you've got questions, ask me." No one answered, but the silence felt different. Let's dive into the next chapter. A week later, Mr. Bennet invited Leo to a private meeting, this time with a member of senior leadership, not to discipline him. "Do you believe this company has a deeper issue?" the executive asked. Leo didn't hesitate. "I don't think the system itself is broken. But I think we've let the wrong people run it for too long, without challenge." The room went still. Then came the real question. "What is it that you want?" Leo's voice was calm. "I don't want people fired. I just want fairness. I want people to stop being pushed out just because they refuse to bow down." That evening, Leo stayed late at the office. It was raining lightly, quiet outside like the air was thinking. He looked up at the building. He remembered his first day. Nervous. Unsure, out of place. Now, he didn't feel like he fully belonged yet. But he had left a mark. Whispers, in nods, in quiet acts of courage from those who used to be silent. They said, important to him, and now he was not like that. But he had left a mark on there when he saw someone standing near the elevator. The one who once dismissed him in a meeting. She nodded. "I'm not someone who adapts easily to change." Pause. "But I have to admit, you're doing something that most people here wouldn't even attempt." Leo blinked, unsure what to say. Elaine continued, "I still don't agree with how you've done everything, but I respect you, and if you need someone to speak up in the next meeting." "I'll be there," Leo nodded and smiled. A small smile, but somehow it said more than 1,000 words. The first voice that ever made a speech, it made an echo behind it. Think Rogers could possibly support anyone. Can you believe that when truth is spoken enough times, it cannot be buried? Okay, text on screen, next episode teaser. Episode 7, The Nameless Meeting. 1 room, a round table, many powerful faces, and Leo in the center. Will his voice finally be heard? Change doesn't happen by force. It happens when barriers are removed. Change isn't easy, especially when it challenges how someone thinks, their pride, their habits, their position. You can argue. You can raise your voice. You can burn yourself out trying to shift someone's mindset. But in the end, people don't change because you yell louder. They change because something silent inside them moves. And just like in chemistry, that shift often needs something extra. Not pressure, not heat, but a catalyst. In this room, a round table, 6 people, 4 senior managers, 1 from HR, and Leo, no title, no authority. Just the truth. No agenda was written. No objective was officially named. The meeting opened with silence, and what followed was not debate. It was a slow reaction. Elaine, the senior manager, was the first to speak. We're not talking about one person. We're talking about culture. No one disagreed, but no one jumped in either. Mr. Bennet, quiet as always, simply watched. He knew. This wasn't about policy. This was about chemistry. We weren't talking about policy. We just watched him. We needed Jason. He was pressing long walks around the campus, bringing a meeting end. I care deeply about the culture, the work involved in this. It's not just one writer. The catalyst enters. We met Jason, the project director, broke the silence first. Firm, precise, suspicious. What is it that you want, Leo? To tear down the system? Rewrite the rules? Leo looked up, calmly. I don't want to change anyone. I just want to shed light on what's being hidden, Jason smirked. You think a few words change how we do business? I've been here 14 years. I know how things really work. Leo nodded. Then he told stories. Not speeches, not drama, just stories about Victor, Ava, about voices that were shut down before they could be heard. Each story was like a molecule breaking its old bonds, slowly forming new ones in the minds of those listening. When a reaction doesn't happen immediately, people assume it never will. They resist, throw up defenses, logic, status, structure. The head of finance cut in. We can't run a company on feelings. We need stability. Leo replied, stability doesn't mean staying the same. Sometimes change is the only way to keep things together. The tension rose, like heat building in a closed flask. Then, quietly, Elaine spoke again. I used to think like Jason, that culture doesn't change. Pause. But I was wrong. I was wrong. Quietly, Elaine spoke again, about a young employee who made mistakes, but was never taught, only cast out. And how that made her wonder. Maybe it's not the people who don't belong. Maybe it's the system that no longer fits the people. Bennett smiled, ever so slightly. One by one, heads around the table began to nod. Leo didn't feel like he'd won, but he could feel it. The energy needed for change had dropped. The resistance wasn't gone, but it was weaker. No policy, no memo, no announcement, but something had changed. A catalyst had entered the system. Questions about fairness, inclusion, and voice would echo long after. And next time, the room wouldn't need as much heat. And maybe, just maybe, Leo wouldn't be standing alone. This is Narrator. Closing reflection. People don't change just because you pressure them. They change when something in the system shifts, when they feel safe, when defenses fade, when someone else takes the first step and doesn't fall. Change isn't about force, it's about catalysis. It's about removing friction and letting transformation happen on its own. Text on screen. Next episode teaser. Episode 8, The Chain Reaction. A small shift can trigger a wave, but is Leo ready for what comes next? Episode 8. Change is contagious. Once it starts, it doesn't stop. It's one spark, one voice that refuses to stay silent. Because when one person stands up, others begin to wonder if they can too. That's how change spreads. Not as a loud explosion, but as a quiet wave, unstoppable. Following the weeks shifted, something in the office had shifted. No one said it aloud, but everyone could feel it. In the break room, the interns didn't fall silent when Nate entered anymore. Ava, who once spoke timidly, now presented her ideas with steady confidence. Then came the email, not from Leo, but from Victor. Subject, we should start listening to each other more. It wasn't long, it didn't name names. It was just an invitation. If you've ever seen something wrong, you're not alone. Part 2, Nate strikes back. But systems don't like chain reactions. Nate didn't stay quiet. Soon, an anonymous post on the company's internal forum began circulating. Some people just want attention. Be careful who you stand next to. Side glances returned. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. The tension started to creep back in. But this time, Leo wasn't standing alone. At the monthly company meeting, something happened that no one expected. Ava was chosen to present part of the creative team's update. She stood calmly, clicked to the first slide, and said, "Culture isn't a slogan. It's something we choose every day. Beneath the headline was a quote. It came from Leo, but no name was attached. The room held its breath. Ava looked up and continued. I used to be afraid to speak. Now I'm more afraid of what silence protects. There was a pause, then applause. Not polite. Not routine. Real. Even one of the senior directors stood up. Not to leave, but to join in. After the meeting, Leo walked out quietly. He wasn't sure what had happened or what it meant. Then, a hand landed gently on his shoulder. It was Jason. I didn't think I'd ever say this, he began. But today, I heard something I hadn't heard before. He paused. Thank you, Leo. You've made me question what I've been taking for granted. Leo nodded, and for the first time, Jason smiled. Part 5, the final connection. The next morning, Leo arrived early. On his desk was a folded note, handwritten, no name. I don't know where to begin, but I know I want to be part of this. Kara, HR. Leo sat for a moment. Looking at the note, the chain reaction had begun. No orders, no campaign, no permission. Just one person connecting with another. When fire meets fuel, it spreads. But when truth meets courage, it becomes something more. It becomes contagious. The chain reaction doesn't need force. It doesn't ask for permission. It just needs one person to go first, then another, and soon it becomes unstoppable. Sweet text on screen, Episode 9 teaser. Next episode, The Resistance. Not everyone welcomes change. Some fight to keep the old order alive. And Leo is about to find out not every reaction ends cleanly. Episode 9. The Resistance. Not every enemy shouts. Every step forward awakens something. Resistant. Sometimes it's loud. Other times it hides behind politeness, behind silence, behind systems designed to keep the peace. First, Leo noticed it first in the emails. A project reassigned without warning. A meeting moved without him invited. No confrontation. No open scolding. Just erasure. Not everyone will fight you to your face, Bennett once said. Some will simply try to make you disappear. Leo stayed calm, observant, because sometimes resistance looks like nothing, but it's there. But it feels like everything. Part 2, the wall that smiles. Jason had changed. Victor had spoken up. But then came Marla. Quiet, professional, respected, and completely unreadable. She called Leo into a side meeting. I admire your courage, she said, smiling, but you're starting to disrupt productivity. Leo replied. If productivity depends on silence, maybe it's time we define what we're really building. Marla didn't react, just nodded. You've made your point. Now be careful not to overplay your hand. Leo realized some resistance doesn't need to raise a sword. It just waits for you to burn out. Part 3, the parable of distance. That night, Leo walked the long way home, thinking, breathing. He passed a bookstore window and saw a faded line in calligraphy. Hos viên thiên lý năng tư ngộ, vô duyên đối diện bất tương phùng. If two souls are destined, even oceans can't keep them apart. If not, even face to face, they'll never truly meet. Leo stopped, stared at the line for a while, whispered, So, what about those we meet? Are they strangers or missed lessons? Because sometimes the resistance isn't someone else. It's the part of ourselves that wants comfort more than clarity. Are they strangers or missed lessons? The next morning, Leo saw someone packing their desk. It was Jonas, a junior dev, quiet, honest, always stayed late. Leaving? Leo asked. Not fired, Jonas nodded. Not fired. Sorry, Jonas asked. What's the point? We'll die. Keep from your family. No one. But made to feel unnecessary. Then he added, I watched everything you did. You stood up. You got noticed. I tried that too. I didn't get applause. I just got alone. Leo felt it, deep. Change hadn't saved everyone. It had lit some up and quietly burned others. And in that moment, Leo knew. Speaking truth is one thing. Staying for the consequences is another. Off the piece spelled this way. Our roles also being reduced. Victor's role was suddenly restructured. And Leo got no emails for 3 days. It was clear they wouldn't confront him. They would isolate him. Not with chains, but with cold air and closed doors. Some storms roar, others whisper. Some enemies shout. Others smile, wait, and hope you grow tired. And maybe the hardest part of change isn't starting it. It's continuing when the applause dies. Because systems don't just resist. They absorb. They wait. They wear you down. So you don't just need strength. You need patience. You need people. You need purpose. Text on screen. Episode 10 teaser. Next episode, The Quiet War. Behind every smile, a calculation. Behind every polite phrase, a wall. Will Leo break through or break down? Some battles don't happen in boardrooms. They happen in glances, in closed doors, and decisions made with no explanation. This is not a war of fire. It's a war of ice. And the wounds, they don't bleed. They bruise. Some battles don't happen in boardrooms. They happen in glances, in closed doors, and decisions made with no explanation. A noiseless front line. Leo still came to work on time, still smiled, still did the job, but he noticed. Messages ignored. Credits left off his name. Coffee cups filled for everyone except his. And no one said a word, because that's how this war was fought. No slander, no shouts, just emptiness. Voiceover, Mr. Bennett. The cruelest way to silence a man is not to stop him from speaking, but to convince everyone else he's no longer worth listening to. One evening, Leo stayed late. Not because of work, but because he didn't want to go home with this weight in his chest. Victor found him sitting in the quiet meeting room. You all right? I thought we were making progress, Leo whispered, but now it's like I'm the problem. Victor looked at him, then said, Ever seen fog settle over a city? It doesn't fall. It just creeps. That's how doubt works. Leo nodded slowly. This wasn't about being wrong. It was about being outnumbered. Part 3, The Smile That Cuts. The next day, HR called him in. Not Kara. She was mysteriously on leave. Another officer. Friendly tone. Firm eyes. We've had some concerns about how your actions are affecting team cohesion. You're not in trouble, but maybe take some time to reflect. Leo asked, Can you be more specific? The officer smiled. We're not pointing fingers, just hoping you'll realign. Word that meant fit in or find your way out. Injure way. Inner monologue. How do you fight a battle that doesn't declare itself? How do you defend against silence, against polite faces and closed networks? End Part 4. The threshold. Leo stood outside the office, eyes lifted toward the sky. He thought of leaving. He thought of staying. He thought, what if both were losing? Then he heard a voice. Ava, they're trying to erase you. Not by force, but by memory. She paused. But you're not forgotten. Then she handed him a flash drive. There's more of us. We've been gathering notes, timelines, screenshots, but we can't publish it alone. Leo looked at her. She didn't flinch. This wasn't his war anymore. It had become theirs. All right, their Part 5, The Choice. That night, Leo stared at the flash drive. His laptop blinked, screen open, cursor waiting. He could send it to the press. He could bury it. He could run. But instead, he opened a blank page, and he began to write, not for rage, not for revenge, but for truth. To anyone who feels invisible, you're not. And if you feel alone, that's how they want you to feel. But look closer. We're here. We always have been. He clicked send, and then he exhaled. They're not pointing fingers, but the people fighting them, they're loud in courage, in action, in presence. The quiet war doesn't end with explosions. It ends when the silence is no longer enough to contain the truth. And text on screen, next episode, Aftermath. Truth has a price, and once it's out, you can't put it back in the box. Episode 11, Aftermath. Truth doesn't break things, it just reveals what was already broken. Narrator. Opening. When you shine a light in a dark room, things don't disappear. They're just seen, clearly, uncomfortably, undeniably. That's what truth does. Not to destroy, but to expose. Part 1. The First Wave. Leo didn't expect a reaction so fast. By the next morning, his inbox was full. Some messages supportive, some cold, one anonymous. You think you're the hero, but you just made it worse for everyone. The post had gone live. Employees were reading. Executives were furious. The truth was out, and now came the consequences. On to the next. The glass room. 4 executives, 1 HR rep. Leo sat alone across from them. One of them, calm, rehearsed, spoke. You've violated confidentiality protocols. Public disclosure of internal materials is a serious offense. Leo replied. What's the protocol for covering harm? Silence. For ignoring patterns? For punishing people for speaking up? One of the execs stood. You've made your point. Now let us do what we must. No raised voices, just a quiet door closing behind him. Victor got called in next. It sits in the chest, slow, heavy, suffocating. Victor got called in next. Elaine too. Some backed away from Leo. Others avoided eye contact. And Kara? Still on leave. The organization was splitting. Not in half, but in fragments. Like a glass floor with hair-lined cracks you couldn't see until someone stepped wrong. Now Bennett appeared. Now Bennett, quietly, and he said to Leo, as always. He sat down without a word. After a long pause, he finally said, You're feeling the weight, aren't you? Leo nodded. It's like I threw a grenade in a room full of people I cared about. Bennett stirred his tea. Truth isn't a grenade. It's a mirror. People shatter when they see themselves clearly. Not because of you, but because of what they've denied for too long. Leo looked down. So what now? Bennett smiled, not kindly, but knowingly. Now, you stop asking if it was worth it, and start asking what to build from what remains. By the end of the week, 3 more people submitted their resignations. 2 anonymous letters were sent to HR backing Leo's claims. And Ava? She posted a public message on the internal platform. It's not about sides. It's about truth. If we don't fix what's underneath, we'll rebuild the same sickness in a different color. It went viral inside the company. This time, they couldn't delete it fast enough. Part 5. The Burning Field. Leo knew now. Truth doesn't destroy things. It only burns what can't survive the light. He sat with that, quietly, unshaken, not victorious, but awake. Because the war wasn't over. But now, at least, everyone knew there was a war. Sometimes standing up doesn't mean you win. It means you see clearly, even if everyone else is still blinking. Aftermath isn't the end. It's the beginning of what you choose to build next. Text on screen. Next episode teaser. Episode 12. The Rebuild. What survives the fire? What's worth rebuilding? And can trust ever be restored? Episode 12. You don't return to who you were. You become who you chose to be. When the silence breaks, after the silence fall, you don't go back. You can't. Not where it was safe, but where it's honest. 3 weeks later, Leo received an email. From an unknown address, no subject. Inside, just one line. Some of us still believe. If you're ready to build, meet us. Attached was a location, an old shared workspace downtown. He went. There, he saw them. Ava, Victor, Elaine, and 5 others he didn't even know were watching. Ava stepped forward. We're not here to protest anymore. We're here to prototype. You don't build a better world by fighting the old one endlessly. At some point, you must design something new. They called it Project Seed, a space for ethical tech workers, anonymous reporting tools, peer-to-peer learning, culture built not around hierarchy, but around accountability. Elaine spoke up. We won't win by tearing things down. We win by making something so alive, they can't ignore it. Victor added, and if they come for us again, this time will be too many. They met every week, sometimes at night, sometimes during lunch breaks. Not everyone stayed, but those who did, won. They weren't the same people from before. They were bruised, but awake. They didn't want perfection. They wanted truth and each other. One night, Leo returned to the cafe. Mr. Bennett was already there, reading. Leo sat down beside him. No words at first. Then Bennett said, "You built it." Leo nodded. "Still building." Bennett closed his book. "And you learned the difference?" Leo asked. "Difference? Between breaking rules and breaking cycles." Leo smiled, slowly. "Yes, and I break the cycle again, every time." A few months later, a journalist wrote an article, "The Movement That Started with a Post." Leo's name was mentioned, but only briefly, because this was never about a hero. It was about a spark that caught in the right season and spread. Leo watched from afar, not above, not behind, but among, part of the system he chose to change by stepping out of it. Then inviting others to build a new one. It means reimagining. You don't rebuild what betrayed you. You build what you never had, but always needed. And that's how revolutions begin. Not with fire, not with fury, but with people who choose to stay. Text on screen, final teaser. Bonus episode, a letter to the next one. They'll try to scare you. They'll say it's not worth it. But if you hear this, you've already begun. Bonus episode, a letter to the next one. They say it's not worth it. But if you're reading this, you're already different. They say it's not worth it. But if you're reading this, you're probably standing where I once stood. The same weight, the same question. Is it worth it? Let me answer that. Not with certainty, but with honesty to the one who comes next. You'll feel alone. You'll look around and wonder, am I the only one who sees this? You're not. We're just quiet, sometimes because we're spared, sometimes because we've been burned, but mostly because we're waiting for someone brave enough to speak first. If that someone is you, know this. You will lose things. Comfort, approval, maybe even your job. But you will gain others. Clarity, self-respect, and people, the quiet ones, who are waiting to follow courage. People will try to make you small, make you feel dramatic, make you feel like you're the problem. You're not. You're the catalyst. I used to think speaking up was about fixing systems. Now I know. It's about remembering that silence is a system too, and someone has to break it. Let them call you naive. Let them say it's useless. Let them whisper behind closed doors, while you open new ones. You are not alone. Not really. Even when you feel it, especially when you feel it, if no one else says it, I will. I see you. I believe you. I thank you for stepping into the fire, not to burn things down, but to bring light. Then to the next brave soul, this isn't a guide, it's a torch. Keep it burning, pass it on.